Nikocado Avocado is lying to you, dear viewer, and that's okay.
Shooby-doo, I'm home. Hello, we're back home. Shooby-doo. No, too fat for my seatbelt. I'm too fat for my seatbelt.
Absolutely so disturbed by this. Oh my gosh.
Cow. You look like 2 cows. You look like 3 cows. You look like 4 cows.
Hello, Internet. Today we're talking the mukbang king and expert of being thick, Nikocado Avocado. Now, there are countless videos on the internet all chiding Nikocado on his lifestyle, who he is, and what he does. There's some funny videos, really educational videos I'll leave a link down below. But then there are the commentary channel videos. You know, the videos where they just say it's cringe and bad and don't really say much else. That's not this video. Yes, Nick's lifestyle is bad and dangerous. And if anything, I would say it is something you should not do and it's dangerous for your well-being. Binge eating is not good for you. Please do not do it. Please. Please, 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 I'm being serious. The thing with a lot of these Nikocado videos is that they all seem to assume what they're watching on camera is 100% real. As if Nikocado Avocado and his 5 or 6 channels are a glimpse into the world of a madman bent on eating himself, I don't know, to a world without feet. The thing is, I don't really want to add to the discussion that, oh, it's ridiculous to eat every kind of French fry out there, because we all know that eating every single type of fast food French fry is bad for you. And I don't need some guy to tell me that. Like, if you're gonna at least tell me the obvious, please go the extra mile and at least look at Orlin pork him in the butt. Now, speaking of porking in the butt, I actually find Nikocado quite funny. Not for the porking part, but just because I find him funny. He's become a frequent ritual of my girlfriend and I's, where we sit down and watch Nikocado and his marriage fall apart. And we do it all the time because it's absolutely astounding. The drama you watch on Nikocado Avocado's channel is comparable to that of something like Jersey Shore. Like, I don't know how you can look at something like this There's something beautiful in the madness of Nikocado. It almost captures the madness of the internet itself, in my opinion. And what makes this so awe-inspiring is how everybody takes it absolutely 100% seriously, as if it's all real. Look, all I know is that I really love for the fake beef he has with his husband about which one of them porked a guy 5 years ago, and why one's a fat hippo and one's stinky, and they use this exact language like they're 5 years old before they throw fast food at each other. Like, literally, there are infinite amount of videos on the internet that wax philosophical about Nick's failing marriage as if it's, you know, a real beef he's having with his husband. Now, guys, I'm gonna drop a bombshell here today, but did you know that people on the internet do get on the internet and tell things that are lies, that are not true? Weird. Never knew that. Like, take for example a video of Nick yelling at some strange woman apparently feeding her cats. Do you honestly, genuinely think there's a woman there, or do you think he's just screaming into the void? Because I really do think he's just sitting in a parking lot screaming. You know, if anything, I think Nikocado is much smarter than we all believe. I think what we were witnessing was a modern reinterpretation of Schrodinger's cat. Almost similar to how they took the play Cats and murdered it live on the theater.
I be feeding cats! She's feeding the stray cats! Don't feed the stop feeding the cat!
A lot of what Nick does, he does because it gets views, because it's chaotic, because it's ridiculous. what happens happens because people like watching it, myself included. A lot of us would probably say, no, I'm a better person. I don't like to watch it because I like to think I'm better than him. But let's be real. How many of you sit down and watch a Nikocado video and go, man, he's such a mess. He's way more of a mess than me. Or it's like, I thought my life was ridiculous. Look at that, guys. You probably do, even subconsciously. For the uninitiated, he has a pretty interesting interview with James Marriott that I'm also gonna leave linked down below. I think it's a pretty insightful video, and in a way, it forms the thesis of this video. Now, TLDW, as we've all been getting at here, basically at one point in the interview, Nick does say that not everything that happens on the channel is real. It's a case-by-case basis of what's real, normal life versus what's the Nikocado life. You know, normal events in life turn into dramatic struggles for the sake of comedy or a story or a drama being weaved on the internet. Look, let's be real. The point of it is so that way we as a society can look at a guy and go, man, he's a train wreck. Now, this isn't to say something like his weight isn't real. This is a real problem, and it's really, really happening to him. In fact, the idea of him having a heart attack is not a meme. That was actually real. And I do worry for his health in that regard, because I do think I'd enjoy the person behind a camera, the real Nick versus the Nikocado Nick. Now, Nick is a lol cow. He knows that. He knows what he's doing. He's not an idiot. He's completely aware of what people are saying to him online. Like, when you watch a video with Nick in a red shirt, you know exactly what you're gonna get. He's gonna scream really loudly. He's gonna yell at his husband, and then he's gonna eat some obscene amount of food that would make even the greatest eaters on planet Earth cringe in disgust and terror. Now, point is, all of this is assuming that what Nick puts out is real, which, as I've pointed out, is not the case. This idea of assuming that YouTubers are all the same on camera as they are off camera is a lie that people tell themselves. It might be YouTube, but whoever you are isn't really who you say you are. Like, take for example me. Let's say I turn off the camera and go about my daily life as a normal human being. Do you really think I talk about or care about Shane Dawson all that much? Not really. Shane Dawson has barely any bearing on my life whatsoever, outside of being a guy I made some videos on. I'm really not gonna lose sleep over him or think about him pretty much at all. But some people might watch that video and assume that I've made a grave offense, that I've actually harmed their real being. And as a result, they leave an angry comment assuming that I actually give a shit. Now, a few months ago, Nick was involved with some drama with James Marriott, which is why that interview probably ended up happening anyway. The channel/company conglomerate organization Spill Company TM did a drama video about Nikocado and then issued a business apology that was just on par with a level of corporate bullshittery that I've only seen from the best in the business, like BuzzFeed. Basically, the Spill channel took a bunch of crap out of context and, you know, made Nick out to be like a predator. And then Nick addressed this in a video, being very sincere and serious about what was and what wasn't happening in retort to Spill, and nobody watched the video. All of these comments, look at them. Look at these morons. Look at these morons who didn't look or watch anything and just assume that Nick is a predator for the jokes he shared with James Marriott. Guys, some of you watch like commentary channels, like you watch me and you're like, this guy is all my opinions now. Whatever his opinion is, it's my opinion. You know, I have opinions that you would disagree with, and that's okay. And that's probably more than likely. Look, all news has a slant at the end of the day, but there's a difference between just reporting it from your angle and reporting complete falsehoods. There's a difference between an opinion and way of looking at things and willful manipulation and PR bullshit tactics. Like, I hold everyone to like a minimum level of fact-checking efficiency and like ethics, but then you have less of a margin for error when you're a company with like people who can fact check as a job full time. Look, this is the reason I don't do a lot of like YouTuber character assassinations, because just you gotta make sure, one, you're on your A game, and then two, that you gotta be completely like you gotta realize that people are gonna look at the title and just assume that's your opinion. I always say be informed, watch the whole video, not look at the title and then make an opinion. But this is the internet and people's attention spans tend to range about like, I don't know, 5 minutes. So people take the character of Nikocado and assume it's the person, Nick. And that is a really interesting concept. Now, I believe personally that Nikocado is more of a character than a person. And this is based off of the content I've watched. You know, when you watch Nikocado versus that Nick video responding to Spill, it's a very different video. The visual language and just all the signs of that video are different compared to another Nick video. You know, like the tonality and messaging is different in this compared to all the other ones. It's a different thing. And you know, that's much more akin to that recent video he had with James Marriott, where you're more or less exposed to the person, not the cartoon character. There's something to be said for people assuming that the characters of YouTubers online on the channel are the real YouTubers in real life. That this is what they are both in reality and in the online fiction that we present as reality. Now, my BS detectors are very finely tuned to detect bullshit on the internet, but here's the thing. It can be really hard, especially for the average person. But what are these things like a Nikocado? What are these fake people that are being presented as real? These new forms of entertainment that we assume are representations of reality, but are they really? What's the word for this? Where does this come from, and what does this mean for all of us? Now, Nick's online personality is basically a facsimile of a person. It's a fake version distorted, similar to how Jersey Shore is a fake hyper-realistic version of what a person on the Jersey Shore would be like. Obviously, the people are much deeper and less two-dimensional than the show presents. However, we assume that their lives are this drama-filled and chaotic 24/7, when in reality, what we're watching is not truly what is real. It might be reality television, but is reality television real? Well, my light turned off. So internet, today I'm going to introduce you to the concept known as hyperreality. Hyperreality is the inability to distinguish reality from a simulation of reality. Oftentimes in media, a story can be presented that does not entirely reflect actual reality. This happens in a number of formats. TV and film often present a picture of reality that does not actually correspond to what is real. Okay, there's the definition, but what's the difference between real, true reality and YouTube reality, where Nick has a failing marriage with his husband, Orlin? Where did the facts end and reality, the true reality, begin? People need to realize that YouTube isn't YouTube, a collection of people uploading videos. It's more or less become public access cable with more variety and much better production values. But what is hyperreality really? Because that's a pretty complex way to put it. How do I bring this to your attention? How do I show this? Now, this is gonna get incredibly complex, and I'm gonna try and keep it really simple, because even me, as somebody who studies this like in big brain liberal arts college, this stuff gets really complicated. But basically, hyperreality is a concept in a thing called semiotics and postmodernism. And for context, semiotics is basically the study of signs and symbols. So basically, when you see a character eating an apple in a TV show, what does that tell you about that character? What does that mean when a character eats an apple? What is that a sign of? Usually it's a sign that the character's an asshole, right? Think about how many characters in movies you've watched that have eaten an apple while talking to the main character going, yeah, well, you can't get away with beating me at this competition, Charlie Brown, you know, something like that. French sociologist Jean Bailliard said that it is a real without origin or reality, and Umberto Eco called it the authentic fake. Social experiments are probably a really bad example of this, and I wouldn't really use them in this kind of conversation because, well, they do a pretty bad job at appearing authentic. They appear authentic to the people in the video that are being pranked, but it only lasts for a couple seconds before the person is enraged at the fact that what they were presented was a false interaction. Basically, all you need to know is that this is a concept of making something not real appear and feel as real as possible. The famous example from education that is used in this conversation is Disneyland. Main Street USA is the iconography of the American dream, a picturesque, perfect America that is exemplified through the Main Street. It is showing the best, a version of America that is not real. I'm sure, as a lot of people would probably say now, things like the American dream are either dead or were never real in the first place. So if things like the American dream and this picturesque, perfect version of America are a fake version presenting as real, then we know that Disneyland is a simulation of what the real is. It's trying to present this as real when it's not real at all. It's nothing like what it is to live in America. How many places in America are truly like Main Street USA? Reality shows are another good example that really didn't come into the limelight at the time of these, philosophers and sociologists. So, for example, reality shows fabricate drama, straight up. They have script supervisors and people who make drama happen on the show deliberately so a plot can occur in an episode for people to be engaged in the 45 minutes that they have to look at whoever is on the show. This is all in an attempt to create an exciting depiction of what reality is. If you grew up only watching reality TV and that was all you knew, you would assume that your life would be filled with drama every single day of every single moment, and all of it would matter significantly very much. But in reality, as we all know, when you actually leave your cave and actually see the real world, you realize it's nothing like that. And again, I bring up the example of Jersey Shore because look at the just examples of crazy drama and conflict versus the true mundanity of life in general. And the point of using characters like that show in this kind of context is because when we compare it to what's popular now, the Jake and Logan Pauls of the world, the even Nicocados of the world, these guys have been criticized not only for doing staged beefs, but Jake and Logan Paul have been kind of outed as frauds for being one way on camera and being a complete other way off camera. We know from former members of the in-groups of these people that what you see on camera isn't the true reality that they experience every day working in this environment with these creators. What they were presenting to you was a crafted copy idea of what they wanted you to watch. It wasn't truly reality itself, despite the fact it was a vlog, and a vlog is supposed to be kind of like a snippet into someone's reality. Now, this isn't a bad thing. I'm not saying it's bad. Every vlogger does this to an extent. They're taking the most interesting parts of their lives and making them a video. There's no reason to say that that's wrong. It's just how media operates. Nick is also classified in this. Why? Because we can't really tell where the simulation, the fabricated Nikocado reality begins and ends versus the real reality of Nick begins and ends. We can't classify what's real in Nikocado videos versus what's hyper real, what is the simulation. Now, it's probably a mix of somewhere in the middle where they pull from their real life and turn it into drama. This isn't to say that things like their marriage having struggles aren't real. I'm saying that Nick probably did sleep with some men in the past, and it did probably strain their marriage. And all the fake arguing and calling your partner a hippo and all that probably does put a real strain on the marriage. But is everything you're watching just a lie? Is it true? What is it? It probably lies somewhere in between, and we'll never be able to discern without Nick's explicit explanation what's truly Nikocado and what's truly Nick. Given the interview he had with James Marriott, he goes on to say how these arguments and what happens on the channel does actually put a strain on their relationship. But is this to say that Nancy the lawyer is real and they're literally on the brink of divorcing like tomorrow? No, that's probably not accurate of what's happening. Nick said at one point in his diatribes on his channel that he was gonna move to New York, but that he wasn't allowed to at the time. Now, I understand the Backstreet Boys World Tour is happening, but I checked, and yes, you could still get flights. He was just straight up lying in the video, and a lot of people would watch that and go, I can't believe Nikocado lied to me. But to be honest, I'm not really surprised, and also, would we really want a resolution to the conflict? Like, we all like the fact that they have these ridiculously funny arguments, even if it is at the expense of themselves. I obviously know why people watch Nick's content. That's exactly why they do. You know, if he actually did leave Orlin, what would he have then? He'd just argue with himself. Obviously, the weight gain isn't hyper real. The camera shows that he really did put on that weight. But we have to be able to kind of be a bit more critical about what we're watching here, about versus what's hyper real and what's truly real. So that's the big problem. We can't really determine what Nikocado is saying is true, but we can't determine what's false either. And really, the fact that people will get offended when it turns out something isn't true is a bit strange. And we also don't quite know what is true or what's not. We don't get a real picture of what his reality is. But in a larger sense, in a much broader sense, in a thicker sense, if you will, we can't tell a difference between a YouTuber putting out reality and a YouTuber putting out hyper-reality. We just can't tell in the era of social media because I think a lot of us haven't really been exposed to a lot of the true fakeness that does go around. For example, how many people have faked wealth, Lamborghinis, mansions? All of those things are shorthand for I am wealthy and have a lot of money. But you could have just rented that Lamborghini for the day and just rented a mansion for the day, all on a pretty measly budget. And again, that shorthand symbols for a certain thing, like wealth, is also semiotics. Point is, when I do something like that, I am trying to convince you, the viewer, of a concept and a thing called the simulacrum. Probably butchered that. Basically, it means like the imitation thing. I'm trying to convince you of the imitation. The imitation in the context of YouTubers is pretty much the YouTuber itself. It's an imitation of what the person is really like. At least, that's how I view content from my perspective, and having met other YouTubers and having my perceptions of their personality changed because I met the actual person instead of just watching the videos. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe what Nick does put out is true reality. Maybe that is an accurate depiction of him 100%, and that we're all just watching a man build his monument to madness. The question is, where do you draw the line between reality and the simulation? This video was brought to you by my lovely patrons. Please support me on Patreon if you want more videos like this to be produced, trying to be a bit more educational with my commentary and bring some of my $120,000 in debt into the channel so I can justify my dumb, pointless degree in a creative field that requires physical work and not theory papers. So might as well use that $100 postmodernism textbook for something, right? But yes, I think it's important that we think a bit more critically about the content we consume and start to try and think about what's real and what's not, because there's probably a lot of things on social media that you look at that you think are real that are not real. So, you know, if you're just a creative person and you want to try and convince people of something fake, now's a better time than any. People are really susceptible to this stuff. I'm not saying it's a good thing to do. I'm just saying it's an aspect of art that has definitely been explored by other people before. You know, try and present something like the Blair Witch Project today, and most people would assume it's fake. But back in the day, people thought it was 100% real, right? That's hyper reality right there, okay? But try and do it yourself. Try and convince people of your wealth or some other crazy thing, and I'm sure you'd get a lot of people believing you. In fact, you might be able to pull the wool over my eyes. Send me like a Photoshop picture of something, your best work, and I have to determine what's Photoshopped and what's real. Tell me if it's all real. Just try and convince me of the fake and try and show me the authentic fake. Oh, and if you'd like to support the channel even more, please do subscribe. Content like this is just big brain, hard to do, so it'll help a lot.
Maybe we can